I manipulated my cheating girlfriend and my bully into sleeping together. Now they're stuck in a miserable marriage, while I graduated with honors. I recently learned that Mark and Camelia are finally getting divorced. So, I suppose now's a good time to tell my story. I don't care if anyone judges me. Everything that happened was a direct consequence of their own choices. I just learned to adapt and protect myself in an environment that left me no other option. It all started when I was about 19. I had earned a scholarship to attend university. My parents couldn't support me financially, so for me studying wasn't just a phase, it was my only way out. I took it seriously from the start. I lived in the university dorms, and by sheer luck I was assigned one of the few single rooms. It was small, almost like a large closet, but it was enough for me. Not having to share suited me perfectly. I spent most of my time studying or reading. I didn't have friends at first, nor was I looking to make any. My focus was on my future, and I thought that was enough. I was skinny, quiet, and shy, always avoiding conflict. But there was one person I genuinely feared. Mark. You can probably picture him. Tall, strong, a football player, as arrogant as he was aggressive. He rarely hit anyone directly, but he made sure everyone knew he could if he wanted to. More importantly, he knew he'd face no consequences. His father was one of the university's biggest donors, which gave Mark a special status. Professors passed him even if he did nothing, and the administration protected him to keep the money flowing. So Mark did whatever he wanted. From the first month, he decided I'd be his personal target. He didn't hit me. He didn't need to. His bullying was subtler, more relentless. He'd shove me in the hallways, hide my books, spill water on my desk. Once he even stole my assignment and passed it off as his own. I didn't say anything. I was scared, not just of him but of losing my scholarship. I knew any complaint would lead to an investigation that would never go in my favor. If I got expelled, my future was over. So, I learned to stay quiet and endure. The worst part was that everyone knew what was happening, but no one said a word. It was as if everyone accepted that Mark was untouchable and that avoiding him was the best strategy. I followed that logic, dodging him whenever I could. On the other hand, I'd never had a girlfriend. Not even a date. Girls ignored me or mocked me, and I was used to being invisible. So, when I first saw Camelia in class, I barely dared to look at her for more than a few seconds. She was the kind of person who lit up a room, beautiful, outgoing, confident. I knew instantly she was out of my league. During the first semester, I threw myself into my studies and quickly became one of the top students in my class. It was my only priority. To my surprise, Camelia started struggling with her grades. One day after class, she approached me and asked for help with some subjects. I agreed, thrilled. But that wasn't all. She told me she thought I was smart, that she admired me, that I was different from the others. She even said she'd like me to see her as more than a friend. I was stunned. That same afternoon, she kissed me and said she wanted to be my girlfriend. I was in shock. In my mind, that was the best week of my life. I finally had a girlfriend, someone who said she cared about me. What I didn't realize then was that the kiss marked both the beginning and the end of any intimacy between us. From that day on, Camelia visited my room almost daily, always with excuses about studying or needing help with assignments. At first, I didn't mind. I was in love, infatuated, and it made me feel useful. One of my few friends at the university, upon hearing about my relationship, gave me a box of condoms. I was embarrassed to accept them, but he spoke seriously. Keep them in your room. Trust me, you'll need them. I smiled nervously and took them. I'd never held condoms before. Later, while looking at the box in my room, Camelia knocked on the door. Startled, I hid the box behind some books on a shelf by the window without thinking much of it. There they stayed, forgotten, exposed to the sun for months. I never used them. Not once, and that should have told me something. Our relationship stayed the same for nearly a year. She'd visit, ask for help with assignments, treat me sweetly when she needed something, then leave. She never kissed me again. If I suggested going on a date, she'd say she was tired, busy, or wanted to take things slow. Sometimes she'd talk about saving certain things for someone special, which made me feel even luckier, like I was truly the one. I was naive, I admit it. I was in love and had no prior experience. Meanwhile, Mark's bullying continued. I'd learned to avoid him most of the time, but one slip-up was enough for him to act. Once, he tore up my notebook in the library and everyone pretended not to see. Another time, he knocked my food to the floor when I got up to grab water. No one dared confront him. Neither did I. That was my world. Bullied by Mark, ignored by most, and believing I had a real relationship with Camelia when deep down she was just using me to pass her classes. Yet I thought I was okay. Months passed. I remained infatuated with Camelia and kept racking up academic achievements. But something in me changed. I started noticing that she showed no genuine interest in me. She only sought me out when she needed something. She never asked how I was or remembered anything important to me. Above all, she showed no desire to be physically close to me. At times, I felt guilty for thinking that way, as if I were selfish or didn't deserve to want more. But over time, I realized it wasn't a relationship. It was dependency. Hers to pass her classes. Mine to feel loved. As months went by, Camelia's manipulation became more blatant. What started as study sessions in my room turned into quick visits where she'd just pick up completed assignments. She wouldn't even sit down anymore. She'd come in, grab the papers, offer a cold thanks, and leave. I was too nice to her back then, and I won't justify it. I was just shy, insecure, and clung to the foolish idea that helping my girlfriend was the right thing to do. It made me feel useful. Meanwhile, Mark never let up. His harassment was constant and my nerves were frayed. I wasn't violent, but I often fantasized about smashing a baseball bat over his head just to get some peace. His presence made me sick. His laugh repulsed me. Worst of all, I couldn't do anything. Confronting him would cost me my scholarship. It was that simple. As many might have guessed, Camelia wasn't just mine. She never was. She used my room, my time, my work, but her real life was elsewhere. She was happily involved with other guys, ones she actually slept with. When a friend hinted at this, I got mad at him. I refused to believe it, denied it like an idiot. I thought it was impossible for my girlfriend to do that to me. I defended her, saying he didn't understand our relationship. But eventually, reality hit. One night, I forced myself to go to a dorm party. There I saw her. Camelia was making out with some guy in the common room, not caring who saw. Then they left together for one of the rooms. No one seemed surprised. Felt like a punch to the gut. I left the party without a word, returned to my room and sat on my bed, unable to move. I was furious, hurt, humiliated. I didn't know what to do. I'm not someone who yells or makes a scene. So, my only way of confronting her was to stop doing what I'd always done for her. The next day, when Camelia came by as if nothing had happened, asking for progress on her final project, I told her I hadn't done it and wasn't going to. I let her know I knew what she'd been up to. She paused, then sneered at me with utter contempt. What did you think? That we were a real couple? You're pathetic. You should be grateful I even talked to you. This isn't over. If you were more of a man, maybe I would have slept with you. It was like an emotional slap. Not only had she used me, but she also wanted to paint me as the guilty one. That same afternoon, I ran into Mark after class. As usual, he didn't miss the chance to mess with me. He shoved me against a wall, and in a rare moment of defiance, I didn't insult him, I just told him what I really thought of him. He stepped closer with a mocking grin and said if I didn't shut up, he'd break my face. Then he walked off, laughing with his friends like it was nothing. That moment was pivotal. As I watched him walk away, I knew I'd had enough. I hated them both, Camelia for using me, Mark for humiliating me. And then an idea hit me. Some might call it Machiavellian. A simple but effective revenge. Best of all, I wouldn't have to get my hands dirty. I remembered the condoms, the ones my friend gave me when I started dating Camelia. The ones I never used, hidden behind the books by the window, sitting there for 7 months, exposed to sun, heat, and dust. Camelia wanted to get back at me, to humiliate me by showing me what I never had. Mark didn't need an excuse to mock me. So, I decided to nudge the pieces into place. Nothing more that I sought out Camelia and said something I knew would stick in her mind. It hurt that you were with other guys while supposedly being my girlfriend. But it would have been worse if you'd done it in my room, where you never let me touch you. Then, when Mark harassed me in the halls again, I replied with something I knew would hit him. I don't care what you do. Camelia loves me. I know she'd never betray me. That's why you'll never fully humiliate me. Mark laughed in my face as always. But I'd planted the seed. All I had to do was wait. In my room, I left the box of condoms in plain sight on the table, within reach. Then I set up a small hidden camera in the corner of my wardrobe. It wasn't fancy, but it was enough to capture what I needed. Finally, I made sure everyone knew my schedule. I'd talk loudly in the dining hall, mentioning when I'd be at the library or in class. I made it easy for anyone to figure out when my room would be emptied out. A few days later, it happened. I got a message from Camelia. The text read, "This is what you missed out on for not being man enough." Attached was a photo of her naked on my bed. Next to her was Mark, also naked, grinning at the camera like an idiot. On my table, the condoms were scattered as if they'd wanted to flaunt using my protection. Their attempt to humiliate me was so obvious I couldn't help but laugh. I laughed like a maniac, tears streaming down my face. What I'd hoped for was that they'd catch something. I thought the condoms might be moldy or compromised. And if they ended up together, even better. Let her deal with him and let him deal with her infidelity. In the days following the photo, Mark became even more unbearable. His bullying wasn't just typical taunts anymore. He'd throw an arm around my shoulders and say things like, "Guess we're brothers now, huh? We shared the same woman." Then he'd laugh loudly and add, "Oh, sorry, I forgot. You never slept with her. So, we're not that alike after all." He'd walk off, cackling like he was the funniest guy alive. Camelia, meanwhile, ignored me completely after that stunt, as if I no longer existed. I waited for something to go wrong for them, an infection, public humiliation, anything to see them fall. One day, leaving class, I heard raised voices in a hallway. I stopped to look. It was Camelia arguing with Mark just a few meters away. I got close enough to hear without being noticed. "I'm telling you I'm late," she said, visibly upset. "And if I am, it's yours." Mark replied with his usual mocking tone, "Are you crazy? We only did it once. You were with half the campus. Don't pin this on me." She stepped back, pointing at him. "That was before. I haven't been with anyone else since. If I'm pregnant, it's yours. You know it." I stood there, frozen, unable to believe what I was hearing. The image of them arguing burned into my mind. Later, I researched and learned that condoms stored for so long under sunlight lose much of their effectiveness. They can break or fail to protect properly. Karma was working at its own pace. I kept watching them over the next few days. I saw more fights. Camelia was clearly chasing Mark, who avoided her. I overheard another argument where she told him to stop talking about abortion because her religious family would disown her if they found out. It was ironic. Sleeping around didn't bother her, but this did. I started to think letting things run their course wasn't enough. They needed an extra push. Then I remembered the camera. I still had the video, Camelia and Mark on my bed, sprawled out with the condoms on the table. I edited the file to focus solely on them, cutting out anything irrelevant. Then I found the university's official website and located the profile of Mark's father, listed as a donor on the alumni committee. There was an email address. Perfect. I sent a short, direct message, explaining that the girl in the video was pregnant and that his son refused to take responsibility. I attached the video and hit send. I didn't expect a reply. But the next day, as I walked near the administrative building, I heard shouting. I got closer and recognized Mark's voice coming from the dean's office. "This is unfair. You can't kick me out." And I'm not marrying that woman. A deep, authoritative voice, likely his father's, responded, "If you were man enough to sleep with her, you're man enough to face the consequences." I saw them leave the office. Camelia followed silently, her face pale. Mark's father didn't glance at me, but Mark did. Our eyes met and I couldn't help but smile, a wicked grin. It was too much for him. "It was you, you bastard," he shouted, lunging at me. His father grabbed his arm hard. "What the hell are you doing?" he yelled. "You want to make this worse?" That's when I realized where Mark got his temper. His father was just as bad, if not worse. After that day I stopped seeing them. No more run-ins in the halls, classes, or dining hall. It was like they'd vanished. A couple of months later, I heard they'd gotten married. Apparently, Mark's father pressured them into it, insisting his grandchild wouldn't be born out of wedlock. The irony was rich, such aggressive, arrogant people playing the conservative Catholic card when it suited them. From then on, my life was much calmer. The remaining years at university were different. I started understanding people better, learned to set boundaries, and stopped staying silent when something wasn't right. I gained confidence. I was no longer the scared kid who kept his head down. Every now and then, I'd hear rumors about Mark and Camelia. They fought constantly. Mark had quit sports and worked for his father's company. Camelia partied often, leaving their kid with Mark's mother. None of it surprised me. Recently, as I mentioned, I learned they're finally divorcing after 8 years of a failed marriage. A friend from university told me. He said they'd both been unfaithful, fought endlessly, and couldn't stand each other. Apparently, Mark's parents are now trying to get custody of the kid. I don't know if they'll succeed or if that's best for the child, given that family's background. Deep down, though it might sound cruel, I still laugh when I think about it. Not about the kid, he's innocent. But Mark and Camelia? They deserved each other. Two fake, selfish people who used and hurt everyone around them. They ended up bound by the one thing they couldn't control. As for me, I moved on. I graduated with honors, got a good job, and though that time in my life was dark, I now see it as the moment I stopped being a victim and started thinking for myself.